it is a twisted logic of the more muscle I have, the straighter I am. But it's nonsense. And the other thing as well is, however we think we're presenting ourselves to the world, no one else sees us like that. Everyone has a lens in front of them of how they interpret the world around them. You might think, oh, I'm presenting really straight or whatever you're choosing to do. But people who see you, they see you how they choose to see you. You can't control that. So do what makes you happy. But don't feel you have to look a certain way to fit in, because based like that, you'll never fit in.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Unapologaytic Podcast. My name is Pierre. I'm your host and the founder of the ethical gay brand Unapologaytic. And today I have the pleasure to talk to Matt Boyles. He's a personal trainer and the author of the book Fitter, Confident Universe, which is an LGBTQ plus guide to well-being on our terms. And before we start, I just want to say such an easy and inspiring read. I really enjoyed it. And it felt like a friend was talking to me about what it's like to work out and how beneficial it can be and how easy it can be without the preaching bit. So I've really enjoyed it. Welcome, Matt. And thanks for talking to me.
Oh, thanks for inviting me on. And thanks already for the really kind words about the book. I'm very
Oh,
grateful.
I really mean it. So if that's okay, I'd like to kick us off with a quick question. I have an idea of the answer, but I just wanted to ask somebody who knows. Does working out in itself make you lose weight? If my MO is to eat takeaways and drink, not just wine, beer and stuff like that, but soft drinks and very little water.
Yeah.
If I keep doing that and I decide to work out, is anything going to change meaningfully?
Potentially. If we're talking fat loss, you lose fat by by taking in slightly less calories than you need each day consistently. And exercise helps you burn calories as well. So it creates what's called that deficit. You can absolutely eat all the crap you want, all the takeaways, all the Coca-Cola, and you will still lose weight if it's fewer calories than you need. So say you need 2,000 calories to maintain the same weight every day. But if you eat 1,700 calories of Deliveroo and McDonald's and Coca-Cola consistently, you will over time lose fat. The thing is, foods like that, processed foods, are basically, you will burn through them quicker. Yes, that is 1,700 calories of food you're taking in, but your body processes them really quickly. So that's why when you have food like that, you're often hungry fairly quickly later. So 1,700 calories of, say, takeaways, you'll probably be pretty hungry for the rest of the day, or like in the peaks and troughs during the day. Whereas if you were to mix, no, I'm not against takeaways. Like, I have them, like they're part of life. But if you can mix it up and have some other, say, what are called whole foods, so things which you need to process, then you will be fuller for longer and it will be easier to stick to the process and stick to the journey. But genuinely, if you don't change your diet but if you stick to that 1,700 calories, you will burn the fat because your body needs more than you're giving it. You'd be missing out on lots of nutrients as well, which again, it's not a very sexy word. Oh, get your nutrients, but they contribute to our hormones, how we feel, our energy levels, how our brain works, our testosterone levels, all of these different things. So even those micronutrients that we get in fruit and veg, in meat, in dairy, and all those other things that haven't been processed out, like there's a benefit to those things, like even like metals you read in the periodic table, copper, magnesium, all of these things help our bodies work, and you don't need much of them. But if you're just eating like processed food, you're not going to get any. So some like healthy food when you can.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for dispelling. I guess it's like maybe fitness myth.
Yeah. I'm
Mm,
big on, there are so many myths out there. There's so much BS out there, and often through no fault of their own, people end up believing things like, oh, if I do sit-ups, I'll burn belly fat. And logically, you can see why that makes sense. If I'm working the area, well, the fat from that area will be used. But it's just not true. It's not what happens. Your body takes fat from all over when you exercise. But not to say you shouldn't do core exercises, because building a strong core has loads of benefits, helps your posture, holds you in tighter, reduces backache, makes it easier just to do exercise. But doing core exercises doesn't burn fat around your core.
Well done. Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
You're an excellent student.
Let's talk about, where home is for you. Are you based in London?
Yes. Yeah. So I live in Clapham, like all the gays.
I used to live there.
It's a rite
Obviously.
of passage. Everyone does at some point. But it is really nice. Like, we're really near the common. There's fresh air and space. And yeah. But I grew up in the Midlands in Birmingham, also in the countryside, and then moved to London about 20 years ago.
Oh, very good. And you're also right that you never expected to be a personal trainer right now. How come?
Oh, well, because for so much of my life, I wasn't into fitness. I thought it was what other people did. So you've read it in the book that sport just wasn't something that really appealed. And I was never really encouraged to take part of it at school and growing up and even university and in my 20s. I still saw it as what other people did. So I'd started working in marketing in my 20s, and that was fine. And I quite liked it and I was okay at it. But when I did start to try fitness in different ways, it really resonated. And I realized it didn't have to feel like how I thought it always would feel. I thought it had to be pressured and serious and team sports and all of these things. And when you start to try it in different ways and you start sleeping better, or your posture's better, or you just feel a bit brighter and lighter, I started to realize the power of it. And it was about 3 or 4 years of doing my own fitness, going to the gym and trying boot camps and running and just seeing what worked. And that was when I just had this spark of an idea. What would first, genuinely, and I'm always transparent about this, the first thing was, what would pay me to be fit and healthy? Oh, okay, I could be a personal trainer. And as I got into it more, I started to realize the impact on me and the impact I could have reaching out to people who felt like I used to, who also used to think that fitness wasn't something they would ever do. And that's still happening now. I'm reaching guys in their 40s, 50s, 60s who've put it off because for various different reasons, it hasn't felt right for them. And I always say, my mission isn't to get you to start a fitness company, but if you want to, go for it. But it's about helping you find your groove with it, your rhythm that works for you. And one person's rhythm and routine will look very different to someone else's. And that's cool. Don't try to copy someone else's. Find your way forward, and then it sticks. Then the magic happens. That's what we want, a bit of magic.
Yeah. That's the impression I got by reading your book, is that it's very much a matter of including fitness in your lifestyle, in your current lifestyle, instead of going for maybe becoming some sort of tough mudder or whatever, doing something that you go from not doing much to being an athlete. Really, that, of course, that's daunting.
Of course. And we're busy enough as it is. Everyone is. We have jobs and partners and families and hobbies and everything else. So if you try to suddenly change everything and fit everything into your life, you get up at 5 a.m. Oh, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to go for a run. Then I'm going to journal. Then I'm going to go work out. Then I'm going to have a green juice. So I'm not going to have any pizza or wine. It's going to feel too much. It's going to feel horrible. And it's going to last for one day, I guarantee. And
if you're lucky.
Yeah. And then you'll think it's awful. And you'll think, oh, I can't possibly stick to that, which is fair enough. No one could. But if you introduce it slowly, different elements, one by one, do one thing, get comfortable with it. Do another thing, get comfortable with it. There's no rush. People still have a sort of, I must do this as quickly as possible mentality. And it's holding so many people back. That, and also the all or nothing mentality, which is what we just said then as well. They're both intertwined, that I have to do everything perfectly every day, ongoing. Otherwise, there's no point doing it.
And from day one.
Yeah, from day one. No. Baby steps, do things that feel good and help you feel good, and you can see yourself doing more of, and then those wheels start to turn consistently.
And I really love your approach to focusing on what you expect to gain or what you want to gain instead of the loss.
Exactly. And this isn't just me, this is studies have shown, if you focus, when you're getting into fitness and well-being, well, however you do it, if you focus on what you have to lose and what you're like trying to change in a negative way, that's only going to feel like a chore. It's not going to be enjoyable. And who would chores we generally have to force ourselves to do. And of course, if you're forcing yourself to do exercise, you're going to deprioritize it. It's going to move down your list. It's not going to feel like something you want to do. But if you flip it into good things you're going to gain, like a bit of me time, a lot of people use it fitness for just to have a complete separation in their brain away from work or family or anything. Because to be honest, when you're working out, it's hard to think of anything else. So it's like almost like enforced meditation, but also things like better sleep, better sex drive, more energy, better posture, he says, sitting up straight. But even just things like if you've never tried or experienced getting stronger just by lifting weights steadily a little bit heavier, you won't have experienced how euphoric that can be. You clearly work out, Pierre. There you go. How satisfying it is to get stronger, to even just 1 kilo heavier, like it's a PB. I did it.
Yeah.
That is so satisfying.
Yeah, it really transformed my life. I started really working out at 30. So 2 years ago. Not even.
Yes. Yes, good. We're both 30-year-old virgins.
So anyway, when I realized I was going to get married, I thought, shit, life is over. So to prove to myself that life was not over, on the contrary, that's what motivated me to start working out.
See. Good.
But it wasn't until after lockdown that I really noticed the impact of diet and fitness. It's just that I do intermittent fasting. That's what works for me.
Great.
And my workout are super casual. I rarely break a sweat in the really. And I think the longest workout is 40 minutes.
Great.
Really. And I go 3 times a week. Now it's just, I don't even, to be fair, I never feel like it, but it's very rare now. But I rarely miss one workout. It's just now I just go to the gym. I don't even think about it. It became automatic, really. But I think what keeps me going is seeing the results and seeing how it's a virtuous cycle.
It is.
Really. And that's the thing that I had never experienced before. So when the gyms reopened after lockdown, that's when it started. That's when the virtuous cycle started, really.
Yes. And I would say you do enjoy it. You enjoy the results. You enjoy the progress, which is fine. Like whatever part of doing workouts and fitness works for you, cling on to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing I particularly enjoy is I'm 45 now, my real age. And so when I turned 40, my friends were like, oh my God, you're going to see as soon as you turn 40, that's it. You put weight on. And I'm really enjoying proving them wrong. There's a bit of vanity in it, let's be honest. But there is also the fact that I'm really in the best shape of my life. And it's so easy. Like I said, it's just lifestyle now, really. Yeah. So I don't even have to think about it. It just happens. It's so inspiring. As you said before, we can all do it. And it's something that that I do for myself, really, right. Instead of just trying to compete or to get somebody's body type or whatever. It's just that because why wouldn't I do it for myself?
Yeah. And that is the best reason. That's the most sustainable, exciting reason that keeps people coming back. When you do it for you, as opposed to doing it for anyone else or doing it for society or because you think you need to fit in or any of that. Do it for you in here. And then you worry less about everyone else because you're on your own journey and it feels so good. And the age thing you just mentioned as well. So I'm 42 and I also am in the best shape, strongest, fittest, best conditioning of my life. And that whole, you hit 40 and it's all like you fall off a cliff. No, that only happens if you choose to believe that what everyone else says. If you want, you can just keep going up. Of course, as you get slightly older, some things need to be adjusted a little bit, but you can be lifting weights into your 70s, even to be honest, even your 80s. Like resistance training is the best thing for your bodies. Building a bit of muscle builds strength, but it does so much internally for you as well. And it's so much for your self-esteem. Like I could list for half an hour the benefits of doing so. And everyone will prioritize them in different ways. So what's important to one person won't be as important to someone else. But we could all agree that list of 50 reasons are brilliant and important and powerful. But Yeah, I don't want to be, and I know I'm not going to be, someone in their 60s, 50s even, who is slowing down a bit and just a bit like their body's not working as well as it could be. I put this into a phrase recently. I want to be able to keep doing what I do for as long as possible and as well as possible. So I was snowboarding a few weeks ago and like just love it. And just being able to do that, and obviously it can be, depending on how fast you go, it can be quite intense and quite aggressive on your body, but it's just so thrilling to be able to do something like that. I want to be snowboarding into my, let's say 70s, maybe not 80s, but because I don't want to be like, you don't want to break a bone and be out of action for 6 months, but I want to be snowboarding well into my 70s. And there's no reason why I can't.
Yeah, exactly. I really can't remember where I heard that, but somebody was saying the way the body works is that you either use it or you lose it. And I really feel like it's so easy to stop exercising and stop moving.
Yes. But I don't want to put people off, because even if you have stopped and it's reduced, or I don't want to say lost, but reduced a bit, you can get it back at any time. That's the beauty. Whatever age, whatever your circumstances, situation, whatever you've done before, as soon as you start doing something again, your body responds. It gets stronger, fitter. You feel better again. You fit it into your life. It's all there within everyone's grasp. And that is what I love helping people with. Showing them, as I said, baby steps, personalization built around your unique schedule. The more you do that, the more it feels possible. Helping people realize what's possible is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful mission, so
Yeah.
to speak. Hmm. So I'd like to ask you about your focus on LGBTQ plus men.
So when I first became a trainer 12 years ago, I was a more traditional trainer, and it was great. So I worked in the park and I trained people there face to face. And when I was starting out, I had the mentality of, oh, I'll work with anyone, so then I can work with everyone. But it's not true. You fall through the cracks because people don't really know who you understand, who you speak for, or your experience. But I did that for about 5.5 years. And it was about almost 6 years ago, I'd seen some other online trainers growing and doing interesting things. And I thought, I reckon I could do that, but I want to do it my way. And that was when I put a flag in the sand, just because, and said, I'm here for my community, because I really had realized what it had done for me. And then looking back, I'd realized I had been scared of the gym. Didn't know where to start. I found nutrition overwhelming, all the classic things, like didn't have any accountability, didn't have any motivation, didn't know all of these. And it felt like there were so many like different balls in the air to juggle. Sounds like I'm about to do a rude joke, but I'm not. But or like all the different plates to keep spinning. Like, how do you know which one to really spin and make that? Like all these things to make sure happen. And the more that I realized I hadn't done it that way, I'd done it on my terms, and I'd realized I'd found a way forward that was kind and fun and inclusive and felt doable. I wanted to share that to other gay, bi, trans, queer guys who wanted to get started but didn't know where or how. And that is the heart of my mission, because like I said, you and I know the power of doing fitness on your terms and how good it can feel. And I really believe what we need now more than ever is a world of strong, happy, fit, confident, healthy people. And the more people I can encourage to start their journeys on their terms, the more we'll build that. And then everyone's more resilient. And then that's another thing. People sometimes feel that it's selfish to find time for themselves. Like they have to put everyone else before them. They're the bottom of their own to-do list. But the opposite is true. Because the stronger, fitter, healthier, more confident you are, the more you're there for the people you love, the better husband, brother, son, employee, boss, manager, friend you are to everyone else. I'm really hot on that. I really think it's the most important thing we can do.
You talk about an interaction you had with a podcast host, and I can really relate to that. Can you talk about it in your own way?
Yes. And that was a real turning point for me, because every day in my job, I have to be quite public and I have to be proudly gay and stand up and say, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is who I work with. It was about a year ago might have even been a year ago today, but it was definitely April last year. I was on a podcast, and it wasn't talking about fitness. It was more about my journey and who I am and what I do. And both hosts were straight and they were both lovely. And I knew one of them very well, the other not as well. And I was talking about why I do and saying, I walked into gyms and I didn't feel confident. And I wanted people to learn how to if they wanted. And he said, oh, no, but now I feel left out because as a straight man, I also don't feel confident in the gym. And this is like this turning point. And I try not to have regrets, but I do regret this because at that one moment, I acquiesced to him and I said, oh, but I will train you. I'll help you. I'll help you build your confidence and strength and all of that. And technically I would. And I do actually work with some straight guys because I just like helping people. But what I should have said, and I have seen him since and had a chat and explained what I wish I'd said, was this is part of the problem with straight men inserting themselves into something that actually is only a tiny part of their world, but a much bigger part of our world. The fact that he couldn't see that gay, bi, trans people are going to have a much tougher time in a gym because of how we perceive those environments, because of how we grew up not being wanted or being shunned as second-class citizens, maybe because of school experiences. He couldn't, and I understand why he can't see, because he hasn't lived that. He's always had doors open for him as a straight white male. Whereas any other minority has to fight a lot harder, has to put up with things that he's just never come across. I should have said, actually, I need you to understand why what you just said isn't helping. I need you to understand that actually a little bit more, I need you to go an extra mile to understand with a bit of empathy why we struggle a lot more, why we might not feel comfortable in a gym because we have experienced homophobia, biphobia, transphobia. All of these things and gym is just an example, but gyms for us can be a more intense or like a visceral experience of how scary it might be for people. And it was for me. I wish I'd said that at the time on record, and I didn't. Obviously, I talked about it in the book. But since then, I've had a couple of other moments like that, and I've found my voice to speak up and challenge people. And it is scary because we internalize that we have to bow, in a sense, to the straight white man because he's always been in charge and he knows best and it's his world. But if none of us stand up to him at any point, then nothing will change. And like I said, I'm grateful I had a chat with him later on in the year because I bumped into him in another thing. It just said, I really need to get this off my chest and explain to you that situation and why I feel like I do now. Even now, even just talking to you, talking about it, my heart's going a bit faster because it's one of those, we're taught not to confront people. But if we don't, nothing is ever going to change. And yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I know I was like, bah, 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 just to you then.
We need to talk about it,
Yeah.
really. And to go back to one little thing you were saying about straight white men and how everything is, I can't remember what you said exactly. If it's not that life resolves around them, but it's just that my experience is that the way I see myself is almost through the eyes of straight people. I don't know if I'm making sense, but the idea is that my sense of identity comes from not comparing myself, but seeing differences.
Yes.
Can you relate to that, or am I making sense?
You're making total sense. It's how we're taught to view the world as well, not just ourselves. And from my experience growing up in the 80s, for example, in the UK as a child, knowing I was different, but not having the words to figure out, but knowing there was something a bit like, why do I feel different? Why do I want to play with the girls? Why don't I want to play football? I know that's so cliche, but that was my experience in the 80s. But I was quite a very happy child. But then as you get in my teenagers years and you start to see on TV people being derogatory about gay people, and often when I was younger, certainly in the 80s, gay people were only depicted on TV as either a villain or a predator or like like a game show host, someone really camp and effeminate and soft and safe. There was nothing in between. There were the two sort of tropes that were wheeled out time and time again. So, of course, that undermines I started to realize I was gay. Well, are those my only options? Like, how is my life going to pan out when that's all that I'm seeing represented in media? And then as I got older, still, you used to only see straight white guys represented in, say, fitness advertising, like for gyms. It was the classic. It just made fitness look so serious. and like a boys club and really exclusive. And again, why would I want to be part of something that didn't represent me in any way? And that was partly why I didn't want to be part of it for so long, because I don't see anyone like me doing it. So this is also why I try to be loudly, proudly me doing fitness my fun, silly, inclusive way to make people see there's so many different ways forward.
When you spoke to that host, how did he react?
So he had been primed a bit because the other person from the host I knew really well, and I'd mentioned it to her already, and she had mentioned it. So he was actually open to it, and we talked it through. And will he change? I don't know, but it gave him a bit of a perspective that he hadn't ever considered before. Because why would he? He's never had to fight for anything. It's always just been an easy path forward. He doesn't have to worry about holding hands with his partner and with wife in public, for example. That's the classic one, but they just do it. Whereas gay people, bi, trans, queer people, you have to check yourself. You have to make sure you're around. Who's around you? Is this safe? Am I okay to do this if I want to? And the other one as well, he's never had to come out. Whereas
Exactly.
we have to come out every day, basically. When someone mentions it, even just, I was buying just at a shop and I said, oh, it's for my partner. And she went, oh, your wife likes this, does she? And I was like, my boyfriend. And it's that moment of, do I go along with it? And in the past, like a few years ago, for an easy life, I'd say, yeah, she does. But now, no, but it does take that a little bit of courage every time you do it, which can be tiring as well on us. Tiring that it isn't just, and in that situation, the woman had no malice. It's just her automatic assumption. Oh, it's your wife. Actually,
Yeah.
no, honey.
No, it's true. And just walking into any room or anywhere and maybe just me, but like feeling like I'm in the minority.
Yeah.
And also as a Black gay man, I'm a minority of a minority.
You've got in that intersection as well. Exactly.
It's a heavy weight to carry for such a small frame.
I think those shoulders are doing okay. But that's another thing. If I go to a business thing and I'm talking about what I do, again, I've got to out myself, but also then I have to explain to straight people why I do what I do. And then I sometimes get but training's the same for everyone. Well, yes, the physical elements generally are, but it's all those other parts that make what I do unique and make it more accessible for people. Like the community, the empathy, the support, the knowing that I've been there, the fact that they don't, like clients with me and in the community that I build, they don't have to come out because we just get it. We know however you identify, you're safe here. It's just shorthand for it's one less thing to think about. So you can just focus on the fitness as opposed to stressing about, oh, do I need to tell my PT that I'm gay? No, I know you're gay. It's cool. So am I.
Mm. And no, it does make such a big difference, really.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that I live in a very accepting place and nobody seems to care. But a few weeks ago in my gym, I approached this guy to ask if I could take some photos of him. And because he is really handsome, but I wasn't asking him out. He was really to just take photos of him. Maybe that's my reaction, but he made me feel like I was actually hitting on him.
Right.
I'm really aware that that's his thing and the shame I felt was my own thing. But still, it's just that we're still at a place or at a stage as a society where some straight men are really not comfortable with the gay gaze.
No. Yeah, sorry. I thought I realized what you said, GAZE for the second gays. Or the really gay gays. That is exactly it. But also so sensitive about it at the same time. There was this article, a man refused, I can't remember, I think it was about, what was it? He was he might have been about to give blood, a straight guy, which as we know is easy for them too. And there was a question, are you pregnant? Which I know in this world as being trans and non-binary becomes more prevalent and it's a learning curve for a lot of people. But he couldn't just take that. He couldn't just say no. He had to take offense and then go to the newspapers and say, oh, what's this woke nonsense that me, a clearly straight man, was asked if I was pregnant. And he refused to answer. He couldn't just say, no, I'm not. he had to take offense and go, oh, this is wrong. Look at me. Look at me. I'm so offended. Have a word with yourself. Pull yourself together and just say no. It didn't need to be a thing. And I know this is like a new ground for a lot of people, but first of all, I'm so grateful for the number of trans guys that I'm working with and supporting on their journeys at the same time. And I'm trying to be the best trans ally I can. But and the thing is, all the messages that were trotted out against gay people in the 70s and 80s, like I just said, they're predators, they want to come in your bathrooms, they're mentally unwell. All of that was precisely what was used for gay people is now being used exactly the same for trans people. And I can't imagine how awful it is for them. So that's another reason that I'm very proudly trans supportive in my community, private groups, when I work with them, just because they're having such a shit time. And I want people to know that actually you're safe with me as well.
I like to think of myself as a trans ally as well. And you also mentioned going to Dragon's Den.
Plot twist. Yes, that I did.
So I'm really interested about that because raising investment as well. And a few weeks ago, I was talking to this straight white man in his 60s, I think. And he was asking, oh, so what do you do? Well, I run a gay brand, blah, blah. The words he used, are you in it for the pink pound or because you really want it? So I thought, well, my brand is about really helping men, gay men, gay, bi, queer, trans, overcome that sort of conditioning that we went through as children. And he said, oh yeah, well, it's not so bad. You're overreacting. And then he said, well, you clearly don't want to make money because if you did, you would target straight people because the gay people are only 10% of the population.
Well, however many conversations, someone like that is so ingrained. I'm so sorry he said that. And it's so dismissive to call it the pink pound. And it's examples of casual homophobia like that make us check ourselves, that make us not start businesses or go to the gym. Literally only today, well, I think it was yesterday on Twitter, there was some fairly prominent straight PTs were going on a stag do to Prague or somewhere. And the stag, they had dressed up in gay outfits. Like he had rainbow socks that said gay, like a rainbow hat, a t-shirt that said beautiful. And they were like, oh, isn't it hilarious? And someone called him out, as I've just done as well. Now I've seen it. And they doubled down on it and said, oh, it's just a bit of harmless fun. Oh, you can't take a joke. This is why people don't want to go to the gym, because they know there are guys like you there who aren't as supportive or just, it makes me so angry because it's so easy for them not to do that, but they still choose to take an easy shot at us, like an easy joke. Oh, isn't it hilarious? He's gay on a stag do. Oh God, lol. It's embarrassing. And it's holding so many people back. And I just hate it. It's just, I'd call them out if I can remember their names, but they're just an embarrassment to the fitness industry.
Anyway, let's go back to your experience.
That's all fun. So I used to run a company called Wireless Fitness with a friend. And he was a trainer as well. And what it was, silent disco equipment, headphones, so you could run fitness classes in the park with music without disturbing people. Because you can't just put a stereo down in the park. The quality you wouldn't carry very far, but it disturbs people and councils don't like it. So we were successfully running that company, like with physical equipment. We'd buy headphones, get them branded, send them to people with transmitters. And it was really fun and it was working. And then we had an idea to make it into because the problem with physical equipment, especially in the park, people would chuck the headphones down, they'd break easily. Our idea, which I still think is great, is could your phone for the instructor act as the transmitter with your own headphones? And all you had to bring to the class was your own headphones and your own phone. And that instructor could transmit their voice and music from their phone and mic to the class who were in the local area. Genius. Anyway, we got a little bit of investment and we managed to build a rudimentary app that sort of worked. And then we managed to get on Dragon's Den and we're like, we think the app works. And they didn't go for it, funny enough, which is fair enough. But we'd proven the concept and people love it. And I still see all over the world fitness classes with headphones, silent disco headphones in gyms, on rooftops, in the park. Like, it's a great idea. People love fitness with music. It makes it better. But no one's done the app idea yet. And maybe it's time. No, I'm not going to do it. But we folded the company. But Dragon's Den was a great experience. And the funny thing is, on TV, we made it to TV and it's on YouTube. It's about 10 minutes they show of our questioning. We were in there for 90 minutes. Like they grill you back and forth, which is fair enough. So they can get as much content, I'm sure, and edit it down. But it was a good experience. I'm glad I did it.
Was your brand a gay brand?
No, it wasn't.
Oh.
No, we didn't talk about that because it was just for everyone. And it really was a sort of generic fitness brand. So that didn't come up.
That must be a great experience.
Yeah. And it still like pops up every now and then. Or a friend of mine was on a flight and that episode was being shown. You could choose it on his in-flight entertainment. And he was like, I just watched you at 30,000 feet.
You're everywhere.
Omnipresent.
I'd like to go back again to like mental health, because that's a really important thing, I believe. Do you think the mental health benefits, do you include that in your workout plan? Or do you think that the mental health benefits are a consequence of fitness?
Well, they're definitely a consequence. They're definitely something that everyone, I have never found anyone whose mental well-being hasn't been improved by doing some kind of fitness. It just is a lovely ripple effect. It just happens. I do build some elements in to help people. And I guess most notably, so many people come to me and they're so focused on one way of making progress, like the scales often. I've got to lose weight. I've got to get the weight down. And what I love to do is help people take a step back and start to appreciate all the many ways that actually it's helping them. After 10 days working with me, they get an automated email saying, I want you to reply to me with 5 ways you've benefited from what you're doing, and none of them can be physical. So 5 emotional, mental, things like that. And it forces people to dig deep and go, oh, hang on, actually, I'm sleeping better. I'm enjoying. Someone said, yes, only yesterday, I realized I've got more confidence at work because he spoke up a bit more than he would normally in a meeting. Things like that are so beautiful and so powerful. And the physical if you're working out regularly, the physical changes will happen. What I find is brilliant is if you take your eye off them, then you worry less about them and you can enjoy the process. And then you can be surprised, look in the mirror and go, oh, yeah, I can see I've changed. But it takes the pressure off. And then it makes it more fun, because when there's pressure on forcing yourself to change, like we said about things you've got to lose, it's going to feel like a chore and you're not going to enjoy it. I want you to enjoy it.
Not that I know about quantum physics, but they say,
Wow.
They say that whatever you focus on grows. The more you focus on the negative, especially if it's yourself, then the more you will see it.
I love that we went into quantum physics, and you're totally right. The more you focus, what you focus on grows. Of course it does. What you give attention grows. Like when you giving water and sunlight to a plant and it grows and it flourishes. You give your attention on anything, whether it's how bad you feel or how good you feel or what you're doing, is the equivalent of water and sunlight, and it's going to flourish. And maybe it's something you don't want to flourish, like the negative feelings. But focusing on the positive, on the good stuff, on what you have to gain, makes it easier to stick to. You're giving it the sunlight and water that makes it, and it makes it come into focus more. It makes you want it more. And the more you want it, the more you get to work for it.
It's part of a holistic kind of approach, isn't it, to life in general. It's not just about lifting weight or just dieting. It's looking at everything at once.
It really is. That's also what I love to open people's eyes to, that there are so many elements to our well-being. But that's also why having the community that I built, that it built up so well. It's not just me saying this. It's so many people saying, oh, I've tried this and I brought this in and there are other ways to look at it. And it just makes it easier when it's more than just me saying it. It makes it easier for new people to believe it, which I think is really great.
I saw that you donate one pound to the Albert Kennedy Trust.
I realized I should have just put that on the website. I do, but I've actually changed the charity I work with. So it was the brilliant Albert Kennedy Trust. I wanted to work even closer with a charity, and they're pretty big. And I suggested a few things and nothing ever came of it, which is fine. They're big and they're busy and I get that. And I did the donations anyway. But now I work with Positive East, who are a brilliant HIV and AIDS charity based in East London. And they organize the Red Run each year, which is this 10K, 5K walk and race in East London for World AIDS Day, which I've been to a few times and brought loads of clients along. And so now I work with them. And actually what I do is a regular fixed donation of £200 every month to them. And I've already been able to go along to an event and provide support in terms of fitness and health to some people, which is why I wanted to be involved with a slightly smaller charity. And it just, it was one of my goals this year, and I'm really pleased. But the money from the book will still be going to a good cause. So I think ultimately who it is doesn't matter, but it's going to Positive East instead.
There are a few quotes that I wrote down.
Oh,
And there's one that I'm starting to relate to is your body is the least interesting thing about you.
that's my favorite one I came up with. How did that make you feel?
Well, it reflected back all the sort of, maybe self-hate is a bit much, but what we were saying about focusing on the loss or the faults rather than the qualities and the thing that I'm actually happy with. Really. So it's gaining a bit of perspective on that. I really enjoyed that.
Fantastic. Thank you. Because we all have a body and they all essentially do pretty much the same things. So it's ultimately actually what's in here and what's up here and what you do with it, what you choose to do that makes you who you are. Yeah. So your body, I always say this, your body is the least interesting thing about you. And some people don't like that.
Why not?
Well, because they work so hard on their body. In their mind, that's how they've prioritized what they're doing and why they're working out. And it isn't to take away from that. Of course it's not. It's just to say anyone can do that. Which again sounds really derogatory, but you can.
Yeah, it's just that everyone can do it or anyone can do it, but not everyone does.
No, that is also true. There's a choice there to commit. But also, no one has your brain, your heart, your soul, your spirit. You can do something completely unique and brilliant, and only you can do that, which is what made you.
Exactly. And nobody will do it for you.
No.
That's the other thing. Only you can do it. Really. And another quote I really love. Let me just try and, all right. There's a twisted logic to using your body and its muscle as the reason behind your actions. The more muscle I have, the more masculine I look. The more masculine I look, the more like a man I look. Therefore, I can pass for straight and be accepted by the world and not get hate. Therefore, the more muscle I have, the straighter I can be, the safer I will be. Yeah. This reminded me of what we were talking about earlier about seeing ourselves through straight people's eyes.
That is exactly it. Passing for straight. And different people will interpret that in different ways. They think maybe if they wore a suit and tie, or it doesn't have to be about your body. It's how you present yourself to the world and how you choose to present yourself to the world, because based on how you think you need to present to be, as I said, accepted or safe or pass. And this isn't to say, this is just about you dressing how you want to dress, not feeling or working your body how you want to work it, and not doing it for anyone else, not doing it because, like I said, it is a twisted logic of the more muscle I have, the straighter I am. Like you can see the sort of the mental steps people take to get there, but it's nonsense. And the other thing as well is, however we think we're presenting ourselves to the world, no one else sees us like that. Everyone has a lens in front of them of how they interpret the world around them. You might think, oh, I'm presenting really straight or whatever or whatever you're choosing to do. But people who see you, they see you how they choose to see you. You can't control that. So do what makes you happy. But don't feel you have to, don't feel you have to look a certain way to fit in, because based like that, you'll never fit in, because you can never keep everyone happy. And there'll also always be someone with a better or bigger body than you. So if you're chasing that ideal, you'll never be happy because it's impossible to attain it. It will always be out of reach.
Yeah. And I think the underlying belief in that is that I'm not good enough. I'm not masculine enough. I'm not this enough. I'm not that enough.
Yeah.
So unless I tackle those beliefs, nothing is ever going to work.
Yeah, that exactly. It's asking other people to give you your value as opposed to choosing
Exactly.
and deciding your own value and worth. It's putting your self-esteem in other people's hands based on what their opinion is of you versus choosing that actually my opinion is the only one that counts. Unless there's bitches paying your bills, pay them no mind.
That's right, sister. What I understood in that is that it reinforces the idea that the fitness you involved with is about doing something positive for ourselves.
Yeah.
And really, so something that is lasting. It's not just a crash diet or it's something where you do an intensive 4 weeks or whatever, and then you go back to your previous life. It's really a lifestyle change
Yeah,
for
it
good.
is.
Another thing that really moved me. The very act of stepping outside our houses, the very act of our existence as LGBTQ plus people is political. On my homepage, I say something similar, as in, we live in times where just being ourselves can feel like an act of bravery.
Yeah, it is. It's a radical act. And we didn't choose to be to be political bodies, to have our sexuality or our color made into a political thing, but it's thrown
But
around
it
now.
is.
Yeah, it is. And I equally, I understand fully why people do want to assimilate in straight culture because
You can pass.
you can just pass and not be, and you can get on with an easier life versus standing up like both of us do every day and proudly saying who we are and who we work with and who we represent and why we do what we do is a political act because it goes in the face of a lot of people who don't like us or don't want us to be healthy, happy, strong, confident, all those things. Yeah. But equally, we have to know, I hope you do as well. I'm sure you do, but we have to be able to look after our mental well-being and sometimes step away. Over the 6-ish years of doing this, I've learned how to keep most of that at arm's length because at first I let it all in and it was stressful and it was more than stressful. It was like I was a bit mentally unwell for just not for a long time because I was quite good at spotting when I realized I wasn't feeling very well because I was letting everything in and just wasn't managing it very well. And now I've learned how to step away and do times and have time and space just for me. And that allows me then to come back strong each time and be publicly proud and say what I need to say and do what I need to do. But it's important for us to protect our own mental well-being and our own boundaries for that, which hopefully you do as well.
Oh yeah, I've got tools now to really check on myself.
Good.
Either time off or just do something to recharge. Really.
It's important.
Yeah. You mentioned also that some of your clients become friends. And I experienced that as well. And that is really gratifying. But do you ever experience difficult or challenging clients? And how do you work with them? And what strategy? Oh, first of all, what makes a client difficult in your experience?
I've got to say this carefully. Well, first off, when I start work with most clients by having a phone call first. And I do say, actually, to some of them more and more, well, not more and more, but I've got confident in saying, actually, I don't think we're the right fit for each other for whatever reason. But I'll always recommend someone else to help them. Previously before that, it's just when people are quite rigid in how they think it should be done. And they're coming to me to obviously have extra training and support and coaching, but they still want to do it their way. And I'm like, no, doing it your way hasn't worked for you. But they take on some of what I suggest and recommend, but the more you can throw yourself into Fit Confident You with me, the more it's going to work. And some people can't for whatever reason. Maybe they're super busy and they think it's the right time to start something, but it isn't. There are all these different reasons. But I know what I do works amazingly. And also, I always give people breathing space. So if they need to pause the plan for a few weeks, 6 weeks, whatever, that's all included at no extra cost because I want it to be the right time for people to do this. It's the situations. It's just been when people have been a little bit more rigid and less open to trying things differently that makes it. And then I feel like I'm failing a little bit because I equally haven't been able to persuade them to try things a bit differently. But most people, and as I said, because of the sort of the process of how we start working together, I'm pretty good at understanding who I think is a good fit. And actually, the more content I put out, people know genuinely what is what you get, as I think hopefully seen now. The content and the sort of the support that I put out on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter is fun and upbeat and optimistic and attracts those people who get me. I've got better at attracting the right people and better at making sure the right people work with me just because there's a good fit. And I'm a cheerleader. I'm like a Labrador. I'm happy and I'm bouncy and I want to cheer you on and make sure you're up for that. And equally, some people, that isn't what they want. And I can adjust and downgrade how I support people, of course. And I'm quite good at like building rapport. But for some people, that's still a bit too much. So that's the only situation when maybe someone is just that in their mind, they don't want a cheerleader. And like I said, I don't have to be a Labrador, but who I am. And it works best if you get me, if you have me as me.
What's your idea of embracing who you are?
Oh, good question. As with anything, it's about doing it on your terms. It's about, and that also links to how much you reveal to the world. You don't have to live your life on social media. And actually, it might look like I live my life on social media. I really don't. What people get is still a curated version of who I am and what I'm up to and how I live. It's doing what makes you happy. It's doing it for you as well, and not for, like we said, external reasons or other people or society. And it is finding your groove, and that will look so different for everyone else. There isn't a set way of you being happy. And the more you can take that time, and definitely less phone time will definitely help, because it gives you time to think, gives you time to assess who you are, who you want to be, as opposed to, oh, this is telling me who I should be 24 hours a day. I know the more, and I appreciate we're filming something for the internet anyway at the moment, but like the more I've managed my phone usage, the happier I've been, because I get to choose on my terms. I don't have 1,000 voices screaming at me all day, every day. So doing it for you, you have every right to choose and carve out whatever life you want, as long as it's good for you and good for the people around you. Yeah, that was a bit vague, but I don't.
No,
How
I
would
don't
you
think
answer
so.
that question?
It's about, I think, being a friend to myself.
Ah,
So,
oh my God, I love it.
yeah, I'm not a friend to myself every day, but
It's a journey.
exactly. Yeah, it's a journey, it's a practice. So,
Yeah,
like everything, the more you do it, the easier it gets and the more comfortable I get at it. And comparing myself to others less.
absolutely. That is a big one. And so many people struggle with that, with comparisonitis. And the thing about that so often is we look at, let's use a gym example. We see someone else in the gym and they're lifting heavier than us and they've got bigger muscle, and we take a snapshot. We don't know anything about them other than what we see in that 1 second. But then we compare all of their supposed best points to all of our negative points, like to
Yeah.
everything about us, the messy, all over the place us. And of course, we're going to come off worse for it and we're going to feel crap about it.
Yeah.
If you can reframe that and use it as inspiration and say, well, I don't know anything about them. And don't feel bad that they've got bigger muscles. They've just been at the gym longer. They've just they've worked out a routine that works for them and they do it consistently. Use that as for inspiration. This is also when people say, oh, I want to look like Ryan Gosling. You can't. You literally can never look like Ryan Gosling. So don't try to emulate him and his face and his body. Emulate his practices. Like the fact that, well, okay, bad example because I'm sure paid to work out because it's his job. But still, there's a level of consistency and dedication there. Emulate that and you will get what you want.
So you talk a couple of times, I think, in the book about The Breaker. Can you recommend either that? Is this your favorite LGBTQ TV show, or is there anything else you'd like to recommend or talk about?
It's not my favorite. I enjoyed it a lot, and it was on when I was writing the book, which was the first series, which was why it was prevalent, and it just was very much this is the opposite of my school experience. No one was gay in my school. Of course they were, but no one came out. The idea of it is literally couldn't comprehend. And I definitely wasn't comfortable being gay then. I knew I was. It took a few more years on my own journey. But looking back, the thought of that just blew my mind. But it's amazing. That is the process, and that is how people are more comfortable now. I do love Drag Race, and just especially the later seasons have been even more inclusive with trans women and trans men doing it. And it just shows the most amazing array of bodies, of people, of identities. And it's like the fact it's so prime time and mass market is so good at normalizing it. And things like that growing up would have been incredible for me, but we didn't have it. We didn't have anything.
Yeah, that's very true. Well, yeah, we had H reports on TV.
Yeah.
That's all we had. Well, that's all I remember. And do you have any queer anthem or gay anthem?
Oh, how long have you got? I made a Pride playlist of all my favorite gay songs. Like some of them are such cliches, but they're so brilliant. I'm going to say it. Lady Gaga, Born This Way. The list of amazing identities and people and ways of life in there is so brilliant. And I just come back to it. And she is so amazing as an ally and someone who stood up proudly throughout, as a weirdo as well, like definitely an outsider. And obviously she's got billions of streams. Like, I'm not sure you can be a weirdo outsider with 2 billion streams on Spotify, but she, certainly on her journey, she stood up for the freaks and the weirdos and the outcasts and everyone. And that was amazing. Basically, all the singers I like are either women or gay men. Darren Hayes, who was in Savage Garden, who's just been performing around the world. And I'm so sad I didn't get to see it because his most recent album was called Homosexual, and it's amazing. What was amazing was, because I'm quite a big fan, he's been on a tough journey. He was married to a woman and then he was closeted and then he came out, but he didn't want to. And you can hear it in his earlier albums, like him struggling with it and come to terms with it. But this album is, if you haven't listened to it, it's called Homosexual. There's a song called Homosexual Act 1. There's a song called Homosexual Act 2. He sings all about being gay. It's so brilliant. And that is one of my newest absolutely queer albums that I will listen to for the rest of my life because it's so brilliant.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that. I'll definitely have a listen.
Do.
Mm-hmm. And where can people find you?
Oh, all over the internet. On Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, I'm Fitter U Global, Fitter and then YOU Global. My main website is fitteru.net. You can get my book, Fitter Company Universe. That's on Amazon.
It's not very good.
Goodbye. I'm so proud of it. Yeah, it's on Amazon and £1 goes to charity as well.
Rightly, it's amazing. No, it's really amazing book. Really, so easy to read.
Thank
amazing.
You.
Really.
I wanted it to be like a friendly chat with someone who just wanted to help you. And I'm so pleased that's how it came across.
Was there anything else you wanted to share or talk about?
No, we've covered a lot. And I'm so grateful, Pierre, for you, like how deeply we've gone into this and how much like pulling out quotes from the book. It really means a lot. I'm so grateful for our lovely chat today.
Me too. So thanks again for the interview. Thanks for writing the book. Thanks for being, so visible. Thanks for being
unapologetic.
Voila. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for listening and watching. And for listeners and people who watch, if you have any comments, please feel free to share. So thanks again, Matt.
Thank you.
I will see you in the gym or in the locker room. See you later. Bye, everyone. Bye.